morning and good afternoon to everybody on our micro webinar. This is episode number 3, and thank you to all of our attendees and our panelists for joining us today. I did just get a message from Tink Taylor from Dotdigital. He should be joining us momentarily. That's our final panelist today. But with no further ado, I will pass this over to Annie and we will get started. Annie?
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. And as Jess said, welcome to the third micro webinar of the series that we're doing called Together We Thrive. Today, we're joined by Tink. Tink will be with us in a moment, founder and president at Dotdigital. Robin Smith, CEO at VL OMNI, and Aaron Quinn, founder and CEO at eHouse Studio. And I'm your host, Annie Schoen, and partner manager at Shopify Plus. So for the past while at Shopify, we've been seeing tremendous interest from businesses from all verticals trying to establish or invest more into their direct-to-consumer strategy and technology. So today's topic we're talking about is why the once nice-to-haves in e-commerce technology have become the must-to-haves in COVID-19 and beyond. Tink, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you were first on my list. I would love to hear your thoughts on our topic today. I mean, Dotdigital plays a really important role for merchants day to day. So what have you seen at a high level with merchants in terms of nice to haves that have turned into must haves, and then any specific examples that you have?
Yeah, I mean, my mind turns to, we do some market research every year called Hitting the Mark. We actually analyze something in the region of 100 different retailers globally, and we follow them over a 6-month period and then sort of re-engineer what their automation program may be, and looking at all of the things they're doing and the things that they're not doing. And it's quite interesting, year on year, the results are fairly similar. And I think, given today's topic, those nice to haves become must haves. And I think there's so many basic things that are being missed. We see a massive lack of what we would call 101 email marketing, let alone omni-channel marketing. So things like, so many automation opportunities missed, things like a very, very relatively low amount of people are still sending a welcome program, and that's important. My mother taught me to have good manners. So when I did something, and in this case, it's giving them some of my personal information, you should go back and say thank you and welcome people. And there's all sorts of uplift and cross-sell opportunities there. And that flows right the way through to things like abandoned browse, abandoned cart is still not set up right away across the board. And then sort of the post-sale campaigns as well, where just checking in to make sure someone's had a good experience, perhaps sending some content on how to use the products, and having some automations following up from that. Not only this is a one-stop message, there probably should be a series. If you've bought a complicated bit of electronics, for example, this is how you set it up. You might send that off initially. Then this is how you use some more advanced features, et cetera, down the line. So I see a remarkable amount of people missing those basics, and each and every one of those is a touch point where you can build customer advocacy, or that will, you can then easily post-sale go and ask for a review, or equally helping the sale process. And that's where the omni-channel piece, I think, really comes in as well. And again, I think the numbers were very low on that. In today's world, I think the customer is in charge of where and how they're going to reach out to you. So not having all of the channels available, or certainly not all of the channels tied in together, so you understand all of those conversations, whether that be via social or live chat, for example. A customer may have some questions about a product before they have confidence to sell, so they want to come and talk to people. So then you have to look at the processes behind the processes and people about how you answer those questions. Lots of people are using bots here and there, and I think if I use an analogy, if I phone my bank, it infuriates me that it takes me forever to speak to a human. At each stage, I press a button, press 1 for this, and it asks me to put in my credit card details. I get through to that department, they ask me to put my credit card details in, rinse and repeat that 8 times over. You eventually speak to a human and they ask me to put my credit card details in. So we need to make sure that those channels where people are coming and asking questions, it means that all of the channels you're talking to and maybe your ongoing marketing are aware of those conversations, and you leverage that data and maybe the knowledge of what products people have either looked at, browsed at, or purchased, etc., and maybe previous support tickets and things like that. So in answer to your question, I think in summation, that I think there's so many opportunities that are being missed with just the basics. So you're welcome and you thank you and your abandon, browse and cart. And then I really think sort of the next step for that is looking at your omni-channel and allowing customers to reach out to you in the channels that they're comfortable and familiar with, but making sure that the data or the information points you're collecting in those channels are then used across all future mediums.
Great, I love that answer. I think that covers a lot. I mean, we talked about how I think all of this just ties into really knowing each and every customer. And you can't do that if you don't have a good idea of how they've interacted with you before, if you're not, having multiple touch points with them. So these are all like really good points. I think if people are not doing this today, they really should.
Customer experience is everything. And I always like to use the analogy of, what would the shop assistant do if you walked into a store? How would they greet you? How, what would they know about you? What can they glean from you? What questions should they be asking? And therefore how you use that. And in the world where we can't go and physically do that, we need to replicate that better online. And the technology is available. It's just not deployed and used. And maybe that hasn't been a priority because people have got so much going on in their lives. But I think right now, given the topic today of this conversation, it really is, get those must-haves in play.
Yep, absolutely. Robin, would love to hear via OMNI's perspective on this. You guys work with obviously a huge variety of businesses every day. So, I mean, what have you seen and what are your thoughts on, first of all, why there's has been a shift from nice to haves to must haves, and then any specific examples you can think of? Robin, I think you're on mute. If you want to just hit the button.
I think Tink really set the stage here from a foundational perspective. I mean, the nice to haves, to his point, communication. I mean, if you're not communicating with your customer, what's the purpose of talking to them and doing business with them? But to me, the intersection between communication and customer experience and all speaks to strategy. And I think that one of the things that we see more and more out there is that you've got merchants that have put sites up. They've done very well, thank you very much, and they've been able to get by with minimal strategy around what they're going to do. Now, obviously, at the other end of the spectrum, there are those that are super sophisticated, but I think a lot of companies mix and don't differentiate between tactics and strategy. And tactical is actually executing on a strategy. And that strategy, the intersection between your brand DNA and your customer experience are absolutely crucial. And communication is one part of it. But more importantly, if you dig through the actual full order cycle, to Tink's point, how do you communicate all the way through if you've got an abandoned cart? But also, how do you move the data through your ecosystem to satisfy the customer experience and to align that customer experience with what your brand actually represents? And this is where we see a lot of merchants falling down. They'll throw up stuff, they'll pay lip service to how it all connects and how data moves between the applications, without really stepping back and putting themselves in the shoes of the customer. And I think that is foundational must-have today, and especially in today's world where more and more people are going online, more and more people are throwing websites up, and they're spending money on ads. How do you differentiate yourself from the crowd? How do you become relevant to your consumer? So communication, absolutely crucial. Strategy, to me, all the way through the supply chain, from the start to acquiring that customer, all the way through to how you deliver the product, how it's packaged. This is all foundational, critical stuff and must-haves in today's environment.
Totally. And all of that just, I think, helps businesses improve their customer empathy too. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and I think at the end of the day, as you said, there's just, it can be a very saturated market, and everyone, it's easy to throw a site up. So yeah, when you're advertising, when you're communicating with, people that are signing up, they gave you their email, they gave you their personal information. So what are you doing to make them feel like they're a part of your brand? So yeah, I agree with everything that you just said.
Yeah, and just to throw one other thing in there, I think that there's a lot of companies too that have thrown up sites and are reluctant as part of this strategic analysis to really look at revamping things and making things more relevant. And I think this is something people need to step back and they really think about also.
For sure, I agree. Erin, curious to hear your thoughts on our topic today. You work with successful Shopify Plus and Shopify merchants every day, so really curious to hear what you've been seeing with everybody. Why do you think we have switched from some nice to haves to some must haves? And if you can think of any specific examples of things that you have seen, I would love to hear those.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that's kind of been said. I think at the end of the day, I think right now we're basically seeing kind of the e-commerce growth, but just with everything accelerated. So what was already a trajectory, we're now seeing it just condensed into a much shorter time frame. And so I think ultimately what we're seeing is there's the brands that have kind of come to realization that they need to own the customer experience as well as the brand. And then there's the brands that are still stuck in the mindset of we have to build a cool brand, we have to build cool products. And that experience is kind of the last thing that we worry about. And so, it kind of takes me back to the experience I just had where, I bought a product online from a brand I've shopped with for quite some time. The sizing was weird, so it didn't fit. Took a couple weeks to get it here. They were a little bit clear with me that it was going to take some time to get here, but it finally got here. The sizing was really weird. So I went ahead, bought another item. Again, another week before I even got confirmation that my, shipment had gone out. When I did, the tracking number wasn't working in UPS. I had applied to get the refund, return, process going. Haven't seen that for 5 days and emailed customer support, nothing. Still haven't heard from anybody. So I have no idea where the product is. And at this point in time, I'm sitting there thinking about this webinar coming up going like, well, what's going to happen to brands like this? And I think that's where the brands are really going to suffer. The ones that haven't realized that they have to go beyond that really cool product, the really cool brand. This is a successful apparel company that is just missing the mark on that experience, and they're going to have to make that shift here really quickly. So the things that we're seeing, I would say back to like what Tink said about like the basics. I feel like it is the basics of just good, polite, customer experiences, helping people really understand what they're buying, on the product pages, going to a much further kind of detail about what information is provided, videos, photography, basically helping them make sure before they add to cart, they're buying the right thing, because the whole return process is a pain. And especially with COVID, you've got, what's that going to look like? Nobody wants to buy 12 bathing suits anymore, try them on and ship everything back. Like, what's that process look like, both financially for the brand and for the consumer? It's not feasible anymore. So we're seeing a lot of like extra content in and around products, things like how big is the product? How big is it in your room with augmented reality? Or how big is the luggage, compared to another piece of luggage that you might have? Much better sizing information. I tell people all the time, like one size chart for your entire brand and all your products. I just don't know how it's feasible. I'm in my 40s and I realize that I can buy one thing from the same brand and it fits two different ways. So helping people understand generally, if they have a relationship with a brand, they might have something else. So if you've got this in our running shorts, this size is a little up or a little down. So make the adjustment for that product. Definitely seeing like the augmented reality come up, especially for the bigger items, higher price point items. How do you see the stroller can it fit in the closet that we now have to fit it in? Is it big enough for the kids to push it? What does that look like? Product guides, helping people find the right product is really key, especially with like nutrition. We do a lot in the health and wellness space. So whether it's, supplements, helping you find the right supplements for immunity, or kind of the needs and challenges that you're kind of trying to address, that you no longer have that store associate to help you, the brand has to kind of step in and help educate that consumer at that point in time. Subscriptions, like making them not come back and have to continue to rebuy the things that now they're going to continue to come back to you for, just making that easy. Payment plans for the items that the workout equipment they need, because they can't go to the gym, but helping them kind of finance that and make that easier. Treat the good customers really well, treat those VIP customers well, as brands are like seeing items totally go out of stock. Give those people early access to restock. Make it feel like you're important because you're rebuying from them. Instruction information, I had a watch that I went to go see if I could change the battery. The only way information they had about changing the battery was send it into the repair center, which is officially closed because of COVID. So essentially the watch I own is only as good as the 25% battery that I have at this point in time. So thinking about what it is after they buy the product, what Tink was kind of saying, that post-purchase process, I think is really important. And then transparency about when are they going to get it? When is it going to be restocked? When can they expect it to be, turnaround times for emails? I think it's a lot about just communication, what the guys were kind of talking about, and making people feel like they have a relationship with the brand versus just kind of aspirationally liking the brand.
Absolutely. I think, for example, like just for someone that shops online a lot, it really loses my trust if I buy something and it's a weird fit, or I just feel like they've really missed the mark on customer service. For example, waiting 5 days for just to hear back from customer service. I think that might have been okay before, when I had the option to go in to the stores and talk to somebody, but now I don't have that option. And so my only option from hearing from a brand is their customer service. And if they're not replying to me in 5 days, I think just in general, like consumer expectations are just going up. I think we're expecting things to happen right away. And because there are so many choices out there, if that expectation is missed, we can kind of just move on to the next, brand, honestly. So yeah, I agree with absolutely like everything you said. I've been nodding my head the entire time about this.
I think you're 100% right there. The consumer expectation is immediacy, especially when we consider things like multi or omni-channel. Going to sort of Aaron's point there, describing buying products and not knowing what's happened and what have you. There's no reason why you can't, for example, send the delivery notifications or the post-purchase notifications of transactional stuff. Send it via email, but maybe send it by, I don't know, Facebook Messenger as well. Mm-hmm. What you're doing there is providing the best possible experience by covering all bases, and also with things like Messenger, like say Facebook Messenger, you're opening up a two-way communication. I just want to double check what I ordered. Did I order the brown shoes or the purple shoes? Did I order the right size? You might be able to fix some of those issues up front. You might be able to increase the average order value, but then you've got real human-to-human dialogue going on, and you've helped set those expectations. You've already exceeded them. And in our daily lives, when we message our friends and family on some of those messaging platforms, as I say, going back to your point, the expectation there is immediacy. So you need to be armed.
Absolutely.
In stores. We're actually seeing a number of people under COVID at the moment, shifting staff that were furlonged perhaps in store, and they've been moved into some of these response mechanisms, maybe manning things like live chat as well, because they're used to responding in a pleasant, nice, expedited way. They're knowledgeable about the products they're selling as well, so it offers a really good experience. And I expect to see a lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the D2C brands that have grown up D2C, I think with things like the Shopify and Walmart, like people are getting hip to the realization that I have this experience that I just mentioned with a very successful clothing company. My wife bought something from a growing baby company that makes customized blankets. She got multiple emails from the CEO thanking her, asking her about the customization, letting them know where the process is, the whole 9 yards. And you're going, people are going to experience that more and more buying from these brands, and they're going to expect it from these bigger brands that are ultimately going to have to make a real serious, decision of, are they going to really invest and pivot into this kind of experience? Because if you get it from the smaller brand, it is like totally unacceptable for consumers to experience that they won't get it from these bigger brands. And how do we reinvent the idea? Like, again, that idea of like buying 3 sizes because they reference the shirts as standard, but all the shirts on the product detail page say they're regular, and there's no standard or regular sizing in the size chart. You go, how do we make that easier so that we don't just make more of an issue? Especially now, I think people expect, these things that we're ordering online now are like necessities, not just things that we need to have. It's the only way we can get things. So that transparency is really huge for people.
Absolutely.
Well,
Guys,
and
we have some really good thoughts. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was basically just going to say both Tink and Aaron have really highlighted to me something that is table stakes, but that a lot of merchants pay lip service to, and that's the fact that they've got people still pounding the keyboard, moving data. To Aaron's point about extended product information. I mean, there's no reason why that stuff can't be integrated into an e-com site, as long as you have the point of truth and the source for that information. And part of the strategy is to put that together. If you're gonna have effective communications, you got to integrate your channels. It's not just somebody pounding the keyboard that, oh, I happen to see that something came in. That's not customer experience. So it speaks to the whole need for looking at putting yourself, to Aaron's point, in the shoes of the consumer. My wife ordered a pair of shoes from a Canadian brand, about a month and a half ago. Well-known brand. They're on Shopify, but their site is kludgy. It wasn't done very, very well. She ordered what she thought was a 38 size and ended up getting a size 36. Now, was that a mistake because the order was not integrated on the back end? Was it a mistake on the site in the way the cart was put together? These are all the things that you need to think about as part and parcel of that, because people will go someplace else. Yeah. There's going to be too much choice.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for all your thoughts. I know, apologies to our attendees that, ran a little bit over, but I really didn't want to cut the conversation off. I feel like this is all very important for us to chat about and very relevant to our topic. But thank you so much to our panelists for all your thoughts and all your conversation. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you.